Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to yet another video on Creative Free. Now, listen, I know some of y'all have been wondering, like, Free, where have you been? And listen, I've been. So, that's another story for another time, or another conversation for another time. But today, we got some business today. So if you could not tell by the title, today's video is about getting uncomfortable, and it comes from John chapter 5 verses 1 through 9. So if you have not already, pause the video and go read. Now, if you are not familiar with this particular passage of scripture, I'm just going to give you a little background, a little history. So this story in particular is about a man by the pool of Bethesda. And generally what happened is every year at a certain time, the angel of the Lord would come and stir the waters. And when that would happen, those who would get down into the pool would be made whole or be healed. So this particular man who was by this pool of Bethesda, was there for 38 years on a mat. So essentially, he had been there with an infirmity for 38 years, and he had not yet got his healing until he encountered Jesus. So after his encounter with Jesus, Jesus asked the question, "Will thou be made whole?" And then here he comes with all these excuses as to why he could not get into the pool. At first, it was just,
"Well, Jesus, I have no one to help me into the pool." And then it was just like, and then every time I try to get into the pool, somebody go down before me and yada yada.
It was a bunch of excuses. Okay. Then Jesus says to him, "Rise, take up thy mat, and walk." And then he literally does just that. He rises, takes up his mat, and walks. But that is just the background. I'm going to break it down to you in the way that the Lord gave it to me. Because there's a couple of things that stood out the most to me. And the first being the mat. So growing up, when God gave this to me, he made my mind immediately go to what we call the pallet. And so typically what a pallet was or is several blankets laid on top of each other to make the floor comfortable. So essentially a place that's uncomfortable is made comfortable by this pallet. And so when I was thinking of this, God was just like, he became comfortable in a place that he was never supposed to be in. And I was just like,
"Oh, hold on, Jesus. That's good. You're going to have to go a little bit. You're going to have to go a little bit. Give me a little bit more. Give me a little bit more."
And so as I continue to study and I continue to read and I continue to allow God to minister to me, he literally told me these words. He said, this man, his healing was, he was literally in a place that he was literally, Jesus, help me, Lord. What God said to me is he literally got comfortable in a place right outside of his healing. And so I was just like, what you trying to tell me, Father? What are you trying to tell? And so then he started to break it to me like this. There are people, you watching this video, you watching it for a reason. There are people like you and me who have literally gotten comfortable right outside of the place where we are supposed to be. So healing is our portion, but we got comfortable right outside of our healing. Breakthrough is our portion, but we got comfortable right outside of breakthrough. Deliverance is our portion, but here we are stuck in comfort right outside of the place where our deliverance is about to happen. And God is saying in this season that it is time to get uncomfortable. There are going to be things that you have to do. There are going to be places that you cannot go that used to give you comfort that you can no longer be in. You have to get to a place where you are uncomfortable in this season. Reason being is because you do not grow in comfort. Comfort does not allow you to grow. In fact, comfort takes you to a place of stagnancy. Most times when you're comfortable, there are things that you don't do simply because you are satisfied. So in this season, there has to be a making up of your mind of, am I going to be uncomfortable, or am I going to continue to be in this place right outside of where I want to get to? So that's number one. We're just talking about the mat. Okay, so the second thing that stood out to me while I was reading this passage of scripture was when Jesus asked the question, wilt thou be made whole? Essentially, Jesus was asking, do you want to be made whole? It's not about what other people want for you, but do you want it? Do you want it bad enough? Do you want your healing bad enough? Do you want your deliverance bad enough? Do you want that breakthrough bad enough? Do you want to break these generational patterns and cycles bad enough? Do you want it bad enough? Do you want to go deeper with me bad enough? Do you want it bad enough? Will you be made whole? And this it stood out to me because of, one, how the man responded, and then two, how Jesus responded to the man's response. So the man responded by saying, essentially, I don't have anybody to help me in this pool. I don't have any resources to get me to the place where I want to get to. I need help, and I don't have the help that I need. Or it was almost like, oh, well, these people keep going before me. Oh, these people keep getting in my way. Or these people keep doing this to me to make me, so that I can't get what I need. And literally how Jesus responded, he didn't say, I understand. He did not say, I get it. He did not say, oh, well, let's try to figure out another solution. He literally responded with, rise, take up thy mat, and walk. Ooh, rise, take up thy mat, and walk. It's not about the resources that you have. It's not about the resources that you need. It's not about the help that you need. It's not about people who come in and do certain things to you to distract you. It's not about that. Do you want it bad enough to the point where you're willing to get uncomfortable and go get it? Rise. That requires an action on you. Nobody else. Rise. That's for you. That's the work that you literally have to do. Get out of and take up thy mat, the place that you were comfortable in. Take up thy mat, the place where you laid right outside of your deliverance. Take up thy mat, the place where you decided to be comfortable when you were never supposed to be there. Rise, take up thy mat. So get up. That's an action on you. Get out of that place of comfort and walk. Rise. Get out of that place of comfort and walk. Take action. Get out of that place of comfort and walk. It's going to take you getting uncomfortable. Trust me. Oh, I know. Being comfortable is easy. You chilling. You cool. We vibing out there. But this is not the season for that. This is not the time for that. You have to get uncomfortable. And it's going to take a lot of praying. It's going to take a lot of strategies. It's going to take a lot of instruction. But will thou be made whole? Are you willing? Do you want it bad enough? And trust me, this word ain't just for you. It's for me too. God dealt with me before I even made this video. He's been dealing with me. Do you want it bad enough? And sometimes that's going to take cutting off unnecessary people. Sometimes that's going to take picking up things by faith and putting down things by faith. Sometimes it's going to take all that. It will. But do you want it bad enough? I know we keep seeing this trend of, oh, I'm the curse breaker of my family, but that comes with a lot. So do you want it bad enough? You can't say you want to be the curse breaker for your family and not expect to go through trials and tribulations. You can't be the curse breaker for your family and not not think that attacks won't come. You can't do that. Do you want it bad enough? How you gonna fight back? So, my brothers and sisters, like I've been saying, it's time to get uncomfortable. You can't continue to pray those 20-minute prayers. You're going to have to go deeper. You can't continue to people please. You're going to have to, that's good, God. You're going to have to get out of that place of seeking man's approval and man's validation. You're going to have to let that pride go. You're going to have to humble yourself. Stop all that self-righteousness. But it's time to get uncomfortable. There's too much that needs to be done. And there's so much that the enemy is trying to do in these last days to distract you from doing exactly what God has called you to. Because the thing is, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. You staying in this place of comfort is keeping other people where they are. And we got to expand the kingdom. Time is running down. Time is winding down. Time is running out. It's time to get uncomfortable. It's time to get uncomfortable. God never called you to be comfortable in the first place. I keep thinking about Abraham. Abraham was with his mother and his father, comfortable. And God told him to leave that and go to a land that he would show him. Leave the safety of mom and dad and go to somewhere that I will show you. It's just me and you now. Woo, Lord. It's just you and God now. It's just you and God now. It's just you and God now. Get uncomfortable, because that's what it's going to take. So, I just want to end this off just by reminding you, it's time to get uncomfortable. You cannot do the bare minimum. You cannot be mediocre. You can't just get by. It's time to get uncomfortable. There's too much at stake, too much in store. It is time to get uncomfortable, and it has to start today. It's time for you to burn again. It's time for you to burn again. It's time for that zeal for God to come back. Think back to the first time that you fell in love with God. How often you were praying, how often you were in your word, how often you were seeking his face. Go back to that place. Remember, it's not just about you. We have a kingdom to build. We have an enemy to dismantle and destroy. In fact, he's already been defeated. But we got to build. I pray that this word has touched you. I pray that in this season, God reveals to you the places where you need to be uncomfortable. I pray that God gives you the zeal back for him like never before. I pray that God reminds you of what it is that he has called you to do. And I pray that you remember the reason as to why it is necessary to do what God has called you to do. So I love y'all. I'm praying for y'all. And like I always say, remember who you are and remember whose you are. I love y'all. Y'all be blessed.